Om Namo Bhagavate Sri Ramanaya Namaskaram. Today I'm going to be talking about verses 18 and 19 of Uڵḷadu Nāṛpadu Anubandham. These two verses, as you will see, are a little bit different to other verses in Uڵḷadu Nāṛpadu and other verses of Bhagavan. These two verses actually are translated from an Ayurvedic text. What he says in verse 18 is, between the two breasts, below the chest, above the stomach, there are 6 things. The colors are various. Among these, one thing resembling a water lily bud, and what is inside 2 digits to the right is the heart. So that is saying about the location of something called the heart. It is between the two breasts, it's below the chest and above the stomach, among 6 things with various colors. One thing resembling a water bud, and which is what is inside 2 digits to the right, to the right implies from the right center of the chest, is the heart. So this is talking about a physical location, a bodily location. And then in the next verse, he gives a metaphorical description. As we will see, this is actually a metaphorical description of ego. What he says is, its mouth is closed. Inside exists a tiny hole. In it, dense darkness exists, residing along with desire and so on. All the major nadis exist adhering to it. It is the abode of breath, mind, and light. As I say, this is a metaphorical description. It actually fits very well as a metaphorical description of ego, because ego is often described as a lotus bud that is yet to blossom, and because it's sometimes referred to as a downward turned lotus blossom. When it blossoms, it turns upwards and opens. This is all metaphorical. It's closed because it's bound within the constraints of the Chit-Jada Granthi, because it is identified. It's the awareness identified with a body which is Jada. So that provides a bondage, which is allegorical or metaphorically described as a closed bud. So this closed bud, its mouth is closed. That means it's not blossomed. Inside is a tiny hole. In it, dense darkness exists, residing along with desire and so on. The dense darkness here refers to the darkness of ignorance, which is ego. The very nature of ego is ignorance. It's the darkness of ignorance, because it's the false awareness, I am this body. And along with that dense darkness, there is desire and so on. But desire and so on refers to the first of the 5, the innermost of the 5 sheaves, namely the Anandamaya kosha, which is the will, where all the desires and so on exist in seed form as vasanas. All the major nadis exist adhering to it. The nadis are subtle channels in the body through which life prana is said to flow. So what that implies is, it is the center of the life in the body. It's where the life in the body is centered. And it is the abode of breath. Breath means here, it means both the breathing and also all the other physiological functions, which are collectively referred to as prana or life. So it's the abode of the breath, the mind, and light. The light means awareness. So though in it dense darkness exists, but in that dense darkness is the abode of light. That is referring to the light of pure awareness, which shines within this body in the form of ego. I've given quite a lengthy explanatory paraphrase for this, so I'll just read that. Its mouth, the mouth of that bud-like thing called heart, is closed tight like an intricately entangled knot. Inside it exists a tiny hole or hollow. In it, in that tiny hole, dense tamas, darkness, namely the darkness of self-ignorance, which is ego, the false awareness I am this body, exists residing along with desire and so on. All the major nadis, and that the word nadi literally means tubes, so it's referring to a subtle channel through which mind and prana, life, vitality, or vital energy, spread throughout the body, exist adhering to or depending upon it. It is the abode of breath, mind, and light. The fundamental, ever-existing and all-pervading light of pure awareness I am, which shines unaffected and immutably, even in the densest darkness, illumining it and all other things, and which is therefore the one real heart, the ultimate center of everything, in which everything is contained. So the heart is the heart, in the deepest sense of the word, is that light of awareness, which is both the center of everything and that in which everything is contained. I've also written an explanatory note on this, in which I say, Bhagavan translated the above two verses from the Malayalam version of Ashtanga Hridayam, which is one of the foundational texts of Ayurveda. Ashtanga here, Ashtanga means 8 limbs. Just like yoga has 8 limbs, Ayurveda is said to have 8 limbs. So it's Ashtanga Hridaya means the heart of the 8 limbs, implying the heart of Ayurveda. It's one of the foundational texts of Ayurveda. But this is, Bhagavan found these 2 verses in a Malayalam version of it. I don't think, as far as I'm aware, I don't think anyone has found these 2 verses in the original Sanskrit version, but maybe they're there, who knows. The thing is, with these old texts, there were different versions of the text, and perhaps what got translated into Malayalam was a different version, or maybe they were added by the person who translated it into Malayalam. We don't know. But anyway, it is from that text. In order to understand where the ideas expressed in these verses stand in relation to his deeper teachings, it's helpful to consider what he himself said about them in an answer that Natyananda recorded in Upadesha Manjari. That is, when Natyananda asked him, Hridayatin Swarupam Yadu, what is the Swarupa, or the nature of the heart? That's Upadesha Manjari, chapter 2, question 9. Bhagavan replied, I'll just read the meaning of his reply rather than Tamil. Though the texts that describe Hridaya, the heart, say, and then he quotes these 2 verses of Anubandham. So though they say thus, in Paramartha, that means in reality or the ultimate truth, the meaning of the term Hridaya is only Atman, oneself. That's what we actually are. That is the heart. Since it is distinguished by the lakshanas, lakshanas means the indicative marks or characteristics, called Sat, existence or being, Chit, consciousness or awareness, and Ananda, happiness or bliss, Nitya, permanence or eternality, and Purna, fullness, wholeness, entirety or infinity. Differences such as inside or outside and below or above are not found for it. In what place all thoughts cease, that motionless place alone is called the state of Atman, oneself. When one stands experiencing its Swarupa, that means its real nature, what it actually is, as it is, there is no place there for investigation, such as whether it is inside or outside the body. So Bhagavan very clearly indicates here that what is said in these verses is not the real nature of the heart. It's not, because what the heart actually is Atman in the sense of ourself as we actually are, which is Sat, pure existence, Chit, pure awareness, Ananda, pure infinite happiness, Nitya, it's eternal, and Purna, it's full, it's whole. In other words, it implies it's infinity, it's everything. Purna doesn't actually mean infinity, but it implies the totality of everything. So the real heart is that state in which all thoughts cease. When he says all thoughts cease, we should remember here that when what Bhagavan refers to as thoughts is not just the mental chatter that goes on in the mind throughout the waking and dream state. He uses the word thought to mean mental phenomena of any kind whatsoever. So according to Bhagavan, all phenomena are mental phenomena. So as he says in the 4th paragraph of Nana, excluding thoughts, there's no such thing as the world. And in the 14th paragraph, he says, Jagam embadu nineve. What is called the world is only thought. So from this, we have to infer that the body being a part of the world is also just a thought. So the real heart is that state in which all thoughts, including, when he says all thoughts, it includes the first thought, namely ego. So when ego ceases, the body and world and all other phenomena cease along with it. And that motionless place, that is the state of the heart. And that is, by implication, that is what the heart actually is. When one stands experiencing its Swarupa, its real nature as it is, there is no place for considerations or investigations as to whether it's inside or outside the body. So that was Bhagavan's answer. So I continue with my explanation. That is, any location assigned to the heart in the body seems to be real only in relation to the seeming reality of the body. But since the body, like all other phenomena, is just an illusory appearance that seems to exist only in the view of ourself as ego, the location of the heart in it is equally unreal. Therefore, the description of the heart in these 2 verses is not a description of the heart as it actually is, but is more like a metaphorical description of ego, which, being the experiencer, is the center or heart of the body and everything else that it experiences. As the heart is described in these 2 verses, ego is often described figuratively as being like a flower bud that is tightly closed, because it is the knot of ignorance that keeps us tightly bound to samsara, the illusory appearance of embodied existence. And because the dawn of Atma-vichara that occurs when this knot of ignorance is finally unraveled is in some respect analogous to the blossoming of a flower bud, which opens its face to bathe in the bright light of the sun. Dense darkness, tamas, is said to reside along with desire and so on in this tightly closed bud-like ego, because ego itself is the dense darkness of self-ignorance. And it is only in this darkness that desire and all other passions arise and flourish. Though ego is the dense darkness of self-ignorance that rises as the false awareness, I am this body, and though it is therefore the abode or dwelling place of both mind of both mind and breath, it also serves as the abode of the original light of pure awareness, because this light is what always shines within it as its fundamental awareness of its own existence. That is, though it may seem to be a contradiction when this verse says that dense darkness resides in the bud-like thing called heart, but that this heart is also the abode of light, this is not actually a contradiction, because the light of pure awareness, I am, is eternal and immutable. So it shines even in the dense darkness of ignorance, I am this body, untouched and unaffected by the appearance and disappearance of this darkness, being the original and only real light, which is what illumines the appearance and disappearance of darkness and all other things. The light of pure awareness, I am, is therefore the one real heart, as Bhagavan also makes clear below in verses 21 to 24, because it is the center and substance of ego, the false awareness, I am this body. And hence it is also the ultimate center and substance of all other things which seem to exist only in the view of ego. Moreover, not only is the heart or center of ego, not only is it the heart or center of ego and everything else, it is also that in which they are contained, because it is the only thing that actually exists, and hence it is the one infinite reality that appears as ego and all other finite things, as Bhagavan implies in verse 3 of Ekatma Panchakam. What he says in verse 3 of Ekatma Panchakam is, Tannul Tanu Irika, when the body is within oneself, Tan at Jada Udalam Tannul Iripada Tan Unnum Annavan Chittiratin Uڵḷadu at Chitratiku Adara Vastiram Endru Enuvan. What that means is, when the body is within oneself, anyone who thinks that oneself is only within the insentient body is someone who thinks that the cloth, which is the support of the picture, exists within that picture. In other words, what Bhagavan is implying here, when he said, well, anyone who thinks that oneself is only within that insentient body, that is what we actually are, is the heart. And thinking that the heart or ourself is within this body is like thinking that the cloth, in other words, the cloth here is referring to the cloth screen on which a picture is projected, thinking that that cloth, which is the support for the picture, exists within the picture. Therefore, rather than saying the heart, which is ourself as we actually are, exists in a particular location within the body, it is more correct to say that the body and everything else seems to exist only within the heart, the one infinite space of pure awareness, which shines eternally as our own being, our very existence, I am. Another reason for understanding that any location within the body cannot be the real nature of the heart is that the heart means what we actually are. In other words, Sat-Chit. As Bhagavan explains in verse 24 of Uڵḷadu Nāṛpadu, Jada Udal Nane Nadu, the insentient body does not say I. That is, the body has no awareness of its own. When he says it does not say I, that's a metaphorical way of saying it's not aware of itself as I. Why is it not aware of itself as I? Because it's Jada, devoid of awareness. Sat-Chit Uḍḍiyadu. Sat-Chit does not rise. That is, Sat-Chit is what is eternal. So it neither comes into existence nor ceases to exist. It is always as it is. It never rises or subsides. So we've got two things. On the one hand, there's a body which isn't aware of itself as I. On the other hand, we've got the Sat-Chit, the pure being awareness, which doesn't rise, But in between, he says, use the word ideo. Ideo means in between. One thing, I, rises as the extent of a body. Since it is I, since it's aware of itself as I, it is not the body. But since it rises, it is not Sat Chit. So it is neither the body nor Sat Chit, but it rises as an I, as the extent of a body. So this is referring to ego. So ego borrows its substance, that is its being and its awareness, from Sat Chit. And it borrows its form from a body, but it isn't actually either. So the important word here is in between. One thing that is indicated by this word in between is that the only connection between Sat Chit, which alone is what actually exists, and the body and all other phenomena is ego. Because it's only in the view of ego that all these other things seem to exist. And within ego, ego is the false awareness, I am this body. In other words, it's that which is aware of itself as I am this body. Within that false awareness, I am this body, is the real awareness I am. That is Sat Chit, that is the heart. So ego, that is, Sat Chit has no direct connection with the body. It's connected with, its only connection with the body is via ego. That is what Bhagavan is implying here. He also implies the same in the first section, the first subsection of the first section of Vichara Sangraham. This is a very important section because this is possibly the longest passage in Vichara Sangraham that is purely Bhagavan's teachings, because Vichara Sangraham was compiled from notes that made by Gambriyam Seshya. Gambriyam Seshya made these notes in around 1901, 1902, when he came to Bhagavan. He came to Bhagavan asking, that is, he had read in English various books on Vedanta and yoga and so on. Some of the, among the books he had read were Vivekananda's recently published books on Raja Yoga, Jnana Yoga, Bhakti Yoga, and so on. He had also read various English publications of the Theosophical Society, which mixed up Vedanta ideas, yoga ideas, with all sorts of their own interpretations. So he brought these. When he read these books, Gambriyam Seshya wasn't able to understand them or understand certain portions of them. So whenever he had difficulty understanding a certain portion, he would bring the books to Bhagavan and ask him to explain it. So Bhagavan would then write in Tamil a summary of what was said in English. So a lot of Vichara Sangraham is not actually Bhagavan's ideas. It's things from these English books from Gambriyam Seshya had read. Gambriyam Seshya sometimes then asked for further clarification, and when giving further clarification, then only Bhagavan gave his own ideas. So most of Vichara Sangraham is not actually Bhagavan's teaching. There's all sorts of ideas there, but here and there Bhagavan's teachings come. This particular passage, this first subsection of section 1, is purely Bhagavan's teachings. And here he says in one, that is, I'll just read at least the beginning of the passage. He says, for all sentient beings, one awareness naturally appears as I in all matters, such as I went, I came, I remained, I did, does it not? If one considers why that is, since activities such as going do not exist separately, but only in association with the body, it appears to be saying, does it not, that the body itself is I. But since the body did not exist before being born, since it is composed of the 5 elements, since it does not exist in sleep, and since it will depart as a corpse, is it appropriate to speak of it as the awareness I? It is not appropriate. The awareness, but now this is the sentence I wanted to refer to. The awareness that rises as I, referring to the body in this way, being intermediate, alone is what is called variously as tat-bodham. That's it's a Sanskrit term, but it's used in Tamil to mean in the sense of egotism. So it's called variously tat-bodham, ahankaram, ego, avidya, ignorance, maya, malam, impurity, jiva, soul. So the word that I wanted to draw attention to here is this being intermediate. The word he uses in Tamil is avantaramai. Avantara is a Sanskrit word that means intermediate. It's intermediate in the same sense that Bhagavan uses the word ideal in verse 24 of Uḷḷadu Nāṛpadu, because it comes between Satchit and the body. When we say it comes between, even this it's just a way of putting it, because actually what actually exists is only Satchit. The body is a mere appearance, but the appearance appears in whose view? Only in the view of ego. So ego is the intermediary, so to speak. So since the body seems to exist only in the view of ego, any location in the body that seems to be the center of our self, of our heart, is only the center of ego. That is, ego is what has identified this body as I, experiences this body as I. And so long as we experience this body as I, as Bhagavan often pointed out, if we refer to ourselves, if we point to ourselves, if Bhagavan used to say, if a schoolboy says, I did the sum correctly, he doesn't point to his head and said, I did the sum correctly. Or if he said, I'll run to the shop and collect the milk, he doesn't point to his legs and say, I'll run. He points to his chest. We all generally point to our chest, particularly to the right side of the chest, when we refer to ourselves. We can also observe this on other occasions. For example, if we are walking down a street and suddenly a car behind us honks its horn, we get a shock. If we observe that shock, we'll see it comes, we will actually can feel it in the 2 digits to the right from the center of the chest. Anything that gives you a sudden shock, if you observe, you will observe it on the right side of the chest. You'll observe a sensation on the right side of the chest. So this is the center where the Deha Buddhi, the body awareness, or the awareness of the body as I, it's centered in this place. So it's true relative only to the body. But this is not what Bhagavan was. Generally, when Bhagavan is talking about heart, he's referring to ourself as we actually are. So why did he refer to this place in the body as heart? The reason is, in the early days, there were, among Bhagavan's devotees, there were some people who were not attuned to his teachings, who didn't have a deep and subtle understanding of his teachings. Their minds were very outward going. They were very much influenced by ideas of yoga and everything, which is very much centered around the body. So when Bhagavan spoke about the heart, they said, what do you mean by heart? Do you mean the Anahata chakra? Anahata chakra is the heart chakra. It's somewhere, I think it's around in the center of the chest. There's an Anahata chakra. It's one of the 6 chakras. Bhagavan said no. Then they said, then where in the body is this heart? Bhagavan said, no, heart means It is the ultimate reality. It doesn't have a place in the body, but still they continued insisting, where is the place for it in the body? Then Bhagavan said, it's where we all point. It's 2 digits right from the center of the chest. Bhagavan simply pointed out something which any of us can observe if we take note of it. And they say, but where is the scriptural authority for that? Bhagavan said, I don't know any scriptural authority, but we all naturally point to the right side of the chest when we refer to ourselves. But later on, he came across these 2 verses in this Malayalam version of Ashtanga Hridayam. So to satisfy those who were saying there's no scriptural authority for it, he translated these 2 verses for their sake. But later, many people misunderstood this, and they thought, oh, Bhagavan is saying the heart is located in the body 2 digits right from the center of the chest. Some people even thought that if we meditate on this point, 2 digits right from the center of the chest, that is Atma-vichara, that is self-investigation. Bhagavan clearly repudiated that idea in a passage in Talks. Someone asked Bhagavan, this is in section 273 in Talks. It begins with Dr. Syed asking questions. So I imagine this was probably Dr. Syed who asked this, or it could have been someone else, I'm not sure. So the question is, should I meditate on the right chest in order to meditate on the heart? And what is recorded here is that Bhagavan replied, the heart is not physical. And he says it's not physical, he means it's got nothing to do with the body. Meditation should not be on the right or the left. Meditation should be on the self. Everyone knows I am. Who is this I? It will be neither within nor without, neither on the right nor on the left. I am, that is all. And then he said, the heart is the center from which everything else springs. Because you see the world, the body, and so on, it is said that there is a center for these, which is called the heart. When you're in the heart is known to be neither the center nor the circumference. There is nothing else. Whose center could it be? In other words, the heart alone actually exists because the heart is Atma-swarupa. And as he says in the 7th paragraph of Nana, Yatharthamai Uڵḷadu Atma-swarupa. What actually exists is only Atma-swarupa. So we could equally well say what actually exists is only the heart, because the Atma-swarupa alone is the heart. So it's only in relation to the body that exists only in the view of ego that we can talk about any place for the heart in the body. Actually, there's no place for the heart. The heart is that, as he says in that verse of Ekama Panchakam, the heart is that in which everything is contained. Right? He doesn't explicitly mention the word heart there, but when he says oneself is the heart. So the heart is that in which everything is contained. So it can't be contained within a small part of the body, which is a small part of this vast physical universe. It all exists in the mind. It all exists only in the view of ego. Just to finish off the explanation, I referred there to, while explaining, to verses 21 to 24 of Anubandham. What Bhagavan says in those verses is, I'll just very quickly read them, just because they're relevant to this. To Rama, who asked, in what great mirror all these appear in front as a shadow? Say, what is that which is indicated as the heart for all sentient beings in this world? That is, the implication is that that great mirror in which everything appears as a shadow, that is the heart. And what is that? That's Rama's question. And Vashishta replies, when considering the heart for all sentient beings in this world is of 2 kinds. These are verses that Bhagavan translated from Yoga Vashishta. And then Vashishta continues, listen to the nature of these two, which are what is fit to accept and what is fit to reject. In other words, one of these two hearts is fit to accept, the other is fit to reject. The organ situated as heart in a place inside the chest of the measurable body is that which is fit to reject. In other words, we shouldn't concern ourselves with any heart in the body, whether a physical blood pumping organ or this 0.2 digits to right from the center of the chest. Anything to do with the body, we should, it shouldn't concern us. And then he goes on to say, except within the heart, within your heart, that the heart in the form of the one awareness is what is fit to accept. That is what is both inside and outside. It is not what is inside outside. In other words, it is not what exists either only inside or only outside, because it's beyond the distinction between inside and outside. It's both inside and outside, and neither inside nor outside. And then he goes on in 23, he says, that alone is the principal heart. In it, this entire universe is residing. It is the mirror for all things whatsoever. It alone is the home for all riches. Riches, the porul can mean, I can mean worldly wealth, but selvangal is what he says. So it can mean worldly wealth, but here it implies the wealth of grace, all spiritual wealth, let's say. Therefore, the awareness for all sentient beings is what is declared to be the heart. It is not a small portion in part of the perishable stone-like insentient body. So Bhagavan very, very clearly, by choosing to translate these verses of Yoga Vasishtha, Bhagavan is emphasizing the heart is not something little thing within the body. The body is stone-like and insentient, but it's insentient like a stone. What is the heart is only that pure awareness, the implication of a pure awareness, I am. And then in verse 24, he concludes, this again is a translation of the last of a series of verses of Yoga Vasishtha that he translated. He concludes, therefore, by means of fixing the mind in the pure heart, which is composed of awareness, complete dissolution of breath along with inclinations will be achieved automatically. That is, by fixing the mind in the pure heart, which is composed of awareness, in other words, the awareness I am, ego will thereby dissolve, and when ego dissolves, all its vasanas and all its prana will dissolve along with it. So Bhagavan is very, very clear that this location for the heart in the body is not the truth of the heart. It's not the ultimate truth. It's true only relative to the body, which is itself untrue, unreal. So I hope that's an adequate explanation for these verses.
Thank you, Michael.
Rather than explaining the verses, I've explained away the verses. So, but I've explained it away in the light of what Bhagavan has clearly taught us.
Thank you, Michael. So I will just open up for questions here. Steve Palmer, do you want to go ahead with your question? Just want to go ahead and read his question. When practicing Atma-vichara, paying attention to the sense of I am or beingness, I notice when turning within, away from thoughts and emotions, the knowingness or beingness is under all other activity. It is not predominant, and I have to make efforts throughout the day during daily life. is there anything Bhagwan would recommend alongside this turning within for many brief moments, as I remember, during the day?
The only way is repeated practice. Of course, it requires effort, because the very nature of ego is to grasp form. That means to grasp things other than itself. So in order to turn the mind back towards ourselves and hold on to ourselves requires effort. And it will always require effort until ego itself is thereby destroyed. So that's why Bhagavan emphasized this need for repeated practice. Is that an adequate answer to that question?
I think so.
Sorry, I lost the screen for a moment.
Yeah, that's fine. Go ahead, Steve.
I thought you would say, repeated practice. I suppose the question comes from two things, maybe. One is because I'm fairly new to it, am I doing it right? And second, from I wondered if maybe I've asked you this before, I think, but in your own experience, if there's something that you support through your daily life, through day to day, when you're speaking with people, if you go to the park, if you're working, if you're translating, if during those periods and you're trying to stay aware, if there's something you could say about that, that's the direction. I don't know how clear I'm being there, but that's the direction of the question.
Whether I'm doing it or not, that's what I should be doing. That's what we should all be doing. Because of our strong Vishaya vasanas, our attention keeps on going outwards. Whenever it goes outwards, we need to bring it back to ourselves, and we just need to persevere in doing so. There's no other way.
Okay, thank you for that.
Okay.
Thank you, Michael. Bruce?
Yes, hi. I wanted to ask whether or not there was a quoted verse that talked about covering the whole world with leather, or trying to shield the whole earth with fabric to prevent and control like the hurt that these things give. And I'm wondering, and then supposedly Bhagavan responded by saying, keep the leather on just your feet and just the fabric, like an umbrella just for yourself. And I was wondering if that was like a colloquial saying, or was he referring to that, or is it actually his reference? And if it is, go ahead.
It's an analogy. I can't now remember what it's for, but the idea is, if you're walking through a forest, that is in South India, forests tend to be full of thorny plants. So if you're walking through a forest, you'll tend to walk on thorns. If you want to avoid walking on thorns, it is not necessary to cover the whole forest with leather. If you simply wear the shoes, this isn't a recommendation to use leather.
Exactly,
It's just leather it's an analogy.
Exactly.
You don't have to, if we cover our own feet, what exactly this analogy was used for, I can't quite remember, but I think the main thing is, all we have to be concerned about, this is my interpretation, whether this is what was originally meant, I'm not sure. All we have to be concerned about is keeping our attention fixed within. We can't solve the problem of the world. The world is full of so many problems. There's so many thorns out there. we can't cover up all those thorns. If we want to survive in this world, all we have to do is to protect ourselves by keeping our attention turned within. If we allow our attention to go outward, then we have to face all the thorns and other difficulties in this world.
Yes, thank you.
I'm not sure that's exactly what Bhagavan said, but I remember the analogy. I can't remember what it was analogous to, but I think it was something like that.
Yeah. It also is such a like you really captured it by saying the keeping your attention on the self, which is the Atma-vichara. It's the keeping the leather on the bottom of your own feet. I mean, it's
exactly.
It's so perfect. Thanks.
Yeah.
Sarah, go ahead, please.
Thank you. Hello, everyone. Michael, I wanted to ask whether Bhagwan laid any sort of emphasis on sitting in the lotus position when doing Atma-vichara, on Padmasana, I think it's called. And I'm asking this question because when the question of nadis and chakras and the heart center comes into the picture, then it gets a bit confusing. I have read somewhere that he said you could do it any which way you want, but then there are pictures of him and of other devotees who meditated sitting in a specific position with their backs straight. So yeah, that's the question.
I don't think I've ever seen any picture of Bhagavan sitting with his back straight. He sits cross-legged, but very comfortably. But Bhagavan made it very clear. Atma-vichara has nothing to do with the body. So when someone asked him, what's the best asana for doing self-investigation? Asana means the posture in which you sit. Bhagavan said, the best asana is nididhyasana. Nididhyasana means deep contemplation. It implies contemplation on I. It is not what the body can be sitting or lie. What happened when that fear of death came? Did Bhagavan sit in Padmasana with a straight back? No, he simply lay down. So it's got nothing to do with the body. It's all to do with our attention. Our attention should be firmly seated in the heart. In other words, it should be fixed on ourselves. That is seating the attention, the mind in the heart. That's the only sitting that is necessary. Not the sitting, whether the body is sitting or standing or lying, whatever, it doesn't, it makes no difference at all. It's all to do with turning the mind within and fixing it on ourselves. So if we keep our mind seated in ourself, that is sufficient. In Uڵḷadu Nāṛpadu, also in that passage of Vichara Sangram that I was reading further on, he says, leaving the corpse-like body like an actual corpse. So we have to completely ignore the body. That is when we leave a corpse, we are when this body dies, we have no connection with it. Our connection is with it. That is, so long as we're connected with it, it's alive. As soon as our connection with it is separated, the body is dead. So when he says leaving the corpse-like body, he means we have to completely sever our connection with this body. How do we sever our connection with the body? Only by holding firmly on to our own being. Because the body is not holding on to us. We are holding on to the body. It's not the body that says I, it's we who say, I am this body. So if we want to, in order to let go of this body and all other phenomena, we have to hold on firmly to our own being. That is the true asana.
Thank you.
As Bhagavan said, nididhyasana.
That actually pleases me to no end, because unfortunately I like to do Atma-vichara in the same pose as I watch my Netflix shows. So
yeah.
I think I'm quite satisfied with the answer.
Okay, good.
Thank you. Chitra?
Bhagavan's teachings are so simple. He's just asked us to do one thing. And that one thing we are all failing to do, but the one thing he's asked us to do is to keep our attention fixed on ourselves, always. In the 16th paragraph of Nana, he defines what he means by Atma-vichara. Sadakalamum manate Atma-vil veitirvatu. Keeping the mind fixed on oneself. That alone is Atma-vichara. And in the 11th paragraph of Nana, he says, Oruvantan Sarupa Madeyam Varayil, Nirantara Sarupa Smarane Kai Patravanayan Adu Andre Podam. I mean, until one attains Swarupa, our own real nature, what we actually are, in other words, until we remain as we actually are, if we hold on to Nirantara, Nirantara means uninterrupted, unceasing Swarupa Smarana, self-remembrance, that alone is sufficient. So this is all Bhagavan has asked us to do. But unfortunately, being egos, we would prefer to do anything than this, because holding on to self-attentiveness is putting our head on the chopping block. Until we are willing to surrender ourselves completely, we will not be willing to hold on to ourselves uninterruptedly. So our attention keeps on getting diverted away under the sway of the Shaya Vasanas. The only remedy for this is, no matter how many times our attention gets diverted away, we need to bring it back to ourselves and try to the best of our ability to hold on to that self-attentiveness.
Thank you, Michael. Chitra, please go ahead.
Thank you, Michael, for taking this question. I have two parts to it. They're both related. When I do this practice of self-attention, when you say turning within, this word turning, actually, I am, with my practice, it's more like noticing. Would that be a correct interpretation of turning? Because when I tell myself to turn within, to myself, I'm just noticing myself. Is that the same as turning within? And the second part to the question is, when I notice myself, it's exceedingly subtle. It's like I can hardly discern that feeling. It's very, very, very subtle. Is that how it is in the beginning? And then as you progress, it becomes more and more stronger. Is that true?
Our own being is the subtlest of the subtlest, but also it's the clearest of the clearest. More than any other thing, the one thing we are always aware of is I am. Whatever else we may be aware of, who is aware of it? I am. I am knowing this, I am knowing that. So this I am is so clear, but it is definitely, it's very subtle. Regarding turning or noticing, no words are adequate to express this. Whatever words may be used, they're all just pointers. So Bhagavan often talked of turning within. The reason he talks about turning within is because now our mind is turned outward. We're facing the world. We're attending to things other than ourselves. So turning within means withdrawing our attention from other things by fixing it on ourselves. That's all it means. So it's that fixing of our attention on ourselves. Whenever our attention gets diverted away, we need to turn it back again. That's why it's not literal turning, but that's the closest we can say in words. So we are trying to turn our attention away from all phenomena, away from all objects, back towards the subject, the one to whom all objects appear. So yes, we can also describe it as noticing. That is, there is never a moment when we're not aware I am. But though we're aware, always aware I am, generally we're overlooking it because we're more interested in other things. So we can also describe it, as you say, we can describe it noticing I am, that is, we always know I am, but we overlook it because we're so interested in other things. So reminding ourselves, I am, just being with that I am, that's it. So whatever words we use, they will be inadequate, but so long as we understand what the words are pointing at, that's all that's necessary. Words are just labels. How we label it doesn't matter. So long as we understand, all we need to do is to be self-attentive, to attend to ourselves, to attend to our own being, to attend to this fundamental awareness I am.
Thank you, Michael.
Yeah.
To continue that, one more
Yeah.
small question. I know this practice requires lots and lots of perseverance.
Yes.
So is there any way we could, like, how do we encourage ourselves to do this more and more, because it gets tougher and tougher and we don't know. I mean, I know you told that the progress is in silence, but
yeah. Well,
how do we encourage ourselves to do this?
I think the best way to encourage ourselves is to keep our mind dwelling on Bhagavan's teachings, because all Bhagavan's teachings are pointing at this. All Bhagavan's teachings are emphasizing that this is all we need to do. This is the only way to experience true happiness, infinite, eternal happiness. So by reminding ourselves, by often reading or thinking about Bhagavan's teachings, that will encourage us more and more to put this into practice. But nothing is a substitute for the practice. The practice is what is most important. All these Sravana, Manana, they are a support for the practice. But in and of themselves, they're of little value. But the more we understand Bhagavan's teaching, the more we keep our mind dwelling on Bhagavan's teaching, the more we will be reminding ourselves that nothing else in this life matters. The only thing that really matters is turning within. And as you say, perseverance, it's the only way. There's no, Bhagavan said, nobody has succeeded in this path without perseverance.
Thank you.
Thank you, Michael.
Right.
Robert Boyer, please go ahead. I know you sent an email so you want to go over that.
First of all, I would like to say thank you so much to Michael for such a lucid exposition of this very difficult heart stuff. As
There's
Johnny
nothing
Carson,
simpler than heart. You yourself are the heart. That's all you need to know.
as Johnny Carson used to say, that's wild.
Right.
A funny note is that I have read that 1 in 1,000 people actually has the heart on the other side.
Well, that's referring to a physical organ. This is nothing to do with the physical organ.
I just meant that as an interesting joke.
Yeah.
What I'm most curious about is a problem I have, which I would like to name the 2 Vasana. The problem I have with the number 2. And being a half-assed mathematician, I just can't seem to do without 0, 1, 2, 3, ... And yet I know you want to make it go away, and I would like any advice you can give me for making
you are very happy. You are very happy with nothing other than one in sleep. Sleep is a state of perfect oneness. There is nothing other than ourself in sleep, and we're perfectly happy there.
Thank you.
Only in waking and dream the thought arises, I am a mathematician, I need all these numbers.
Thank you for that perfect reply. I'll dwell on it.
Bhagavan always takes us back to the root. The root problem is the false identification. The idea I am a mathematician is a false identification. You're not a mathematician in sleep. So why should you think you're a mathematician in waking or dream?
How true, and thank you.
Right.
Good. Oh, thank you, Michael.
Hi, Mike. I have a
Yes, go ahead,
question.
Param. Yeah.
I understand with your explanation that Atma is neither within nor without. Then when we focus within means, what does that point within?
When Bhagavan says, for example, turning within, he means turning our attention away from all other things back towards ourselves. So,
Okay.
There's a passage, a beautiful expression Bhagavan translated Adi Shankara's work, Drisya Viveka, into Tamil, and he wrote an avatarike for it. And in that avatarike, he's very...
Avatarike means introduction.
Introduction. In the introduction, he gives a very nice... that is, it's all one long sentence. I'm just reading an extract from it. He says, Purva samskaratinal atotratilulla drishtiye niki. That means removing or setting aside the sight which is on that appearance. It's on that appearance because of the purva samskaras. That is, it's the purva samskaras, the Vishaya vasanas that are drawing our attention outwards. So giving up that outward attention, the attention on the appearance, and then he goes, this is a really nice bit, Tanneye, oneself alone, Bahya antara drishti bedam indri, epodam nadam sahaja samadhi parakatal. That means by the practice of sahaja samadhi, which is always investigating oneself alone, without the drishti bedam, the distinction of the inward and outward. That is, so long as our attention is turned outwards to other things, we have to be told to turn within. But once we turn within, we go beyond this distinction of inside and outside. But we are beyond that distinction only when our attention is fixed firmly on ourself alone. That's what Bhagavan calls the practice of sahaja samadhi. Keeping our attention always fixed on ourselves. So long as our attention is fixed on ourselves, we are beyond this distinction of inside and outside. As soon as our attention slips away from ourselves, then we have the appearance of outside, the outward appearance appears. Therefore, we need to turn back within. In other words, we need to turn back to ourselves. So this instruction to turn back towards ourselves, to turn within, is very necessary so long as we're looking outwards. When we do turn within and look at ourselves alone, then we go beyond this distinction of inside and outside. Is that clear?
Yeah, but actually, then in the case of Atma is just like a concept. We are directing our attention toward the Atma. That means we are directing our attention toward the concept of Atma.
Not the concept of Atma.
Yeah,
Concept means a thought. We are attending to ourselves. But one thing which is clearer than any other thing is Atma. Atma means ourself. Atma means I. We're not attending to a concept of I, we're attending to I itself.
Atma is not a concrete object.
It's not an object, but it's very, very clear. Are you not clearly aware I am?
Subtle awareness, but actually this awareness pervades through the whole universe. As far as, because it's only Shastras and all say the whole Atma pervades through the whole universe. That means then it should pervade through within us also, right?
Yes, but even that, we are when you say Atma pervades the whole universe, you are giving some existence to the universe. The universe exists only in the view of ego. So, of course, Atma is infinite, so it has to pervade everything. But it's beyond the distinct. That's why Bhagavan said, beyond this distinction of inside and outside, we need to, in order to go beyond this distinction, we need to go back within. Murugan says in the Anupalavi, in the post-refrain of Atma-vichara, Atma-vichara is a song, but it's a kirtanam. Murugan wrote the Palavi, the refrain, and the post-refrain, and asked Bhagavan to write the Charanangal, the verses. So in the refrain, he says, Ayeyati Sulapum, Atma-vichara, Ayeyati Sulapum, are extremely easy. Atma-vichara, knowing oneself, is extremely easy. And then in the post-refrain, what he says is, wait a minute, I'll just get it. Just a second. Noya means ordinary person, ordinary ignorant people. Noya tamaku, ulankai amalakani, poyai oriya, Miku mei uḻḷadu anma. That is, Atma, oneself, exists as real so very clearly that in comparison, even the nelikai, the amalaka on the palm is that often an analogy. If you want to say something is very clear, you say as clear as an amalaka on the palm. So even that becomes, even that fades in comparison to how very real Atma is for even the dullest of people, even the most simple-minded person. There is nobody, from the highest God down to the smallest insect, there is no sentient being that is not clearly aware, I am. So we shouldn't think of Atma as some unknown thing, something that we have to discover. Bhagavan said, if Atma-jnana were a new knowledge to be attained, it would be lost one day, because whatever comes has to go. Atma-jnana is present here and now. It's shining within us as I am. The only problem is, instead of being aware of ourselves as just I am, we're aware of ourselves as I am this body. I am, sorry, I can't see your name, Parasoti, is it? Paramsoti, Paramsoti. I am Paramsoti. Remove this Paramsoti, and what remains? I am. That is Atma.
Okay,
So
thank you.
There is never a moment when we are not aware of ourselves. But because we have superimposed a wrong awareness on ourselves, we are said to be ignorant. Ignorant means the false, what is called avidya is nothing but the false awareness, I am this body. Remove the adjunct, the upadi, and what remains is the pure I am. That is Atma. That is what we know even now. So there's nothing new to be known. We've just got to remove the wrong knowledge. And the wrong knowledge is nothing but this dehabhimanam, dehabma buddhi, this clinging to the body as I. So rather than clinging to, as firmly as we're holding on to this body as I, Bhagavan says we have to hold on to ourselves. That's in the verse we're going to do next month, the verse 20. He says, as firmly, the implication is, as firmly as we're now holding on to the body, we need to hold on to ourselves.
Okay,
then
thank you. Actually, I understand because only awareness exists. Only awareness.
Yes.
That is the thing. Only have to understand.
Yes.
All-
Only awareness exists, but the awareness that actually exists is pure awareness. Pure awareness means what Bhagavan called Sutatraribu. That is the intransitive awareness, the awareness that is just aware of itself and nothing else. The awareness that is aware of anything other than itself is ego.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. Thank you. Understood. Okay.
Right, right.
Yes, Lakshmi, go ahead. Lakshmi.
Namaste, Michael. Namaste,
Namaste.
Kamachi. The question I have is kind of weird. So when I am trying to do self-awareness, just meditation or whatever it's called, first is I lose consciousness of the body, like the surroundings,
Yes.
or the sound, noise, people, light, or any of that. And then I lose consciousness of the weight of the body. And then completely, like I lose consciousness of the body itself. And when I'm completely gone and I'm still conscious, I'm not attending to the thoughts. At one point I slip into sleep. So how is it that, how would I not slip into sleep and just stay conscious of, just be aware and not let go of the...
Okay. What is important is not what we lose awareness of. If we are aware, I have lost awareness of the body, then we are still aware of the body, because in that thought, I have lost awareness of this body, there is the body there. So it's, Bhagavan emphasize all in the 6th paragraph of Nana, he says, however many thoughts arise, so what? The point is, we shouldn't be concerned about thoughts. If we're concerned about thoughts, if we're concerned about body awareness, if we're concerned about awareness of the world, our attention is going outwards. The only thing we should be concerned about is self-awareness, the awareness I am. If we hold on to the awareness I am, the awareness of all other things will drop off without our even noticing it. So,
but I don't know that I slept. Like, meaning,
right.
I don't know the position of the body or anything.
Yes.
I'm just not aware. It's just gone. But then I wake up. I don't know if I'm waking up from sleep or if I'm waking up, like what kind of waking up it is. I don't know. When I become conscious of the body, then I realize that, okay, what happened just now. So.
Okay. What happens when we fall asleep? No, normal sleep every night, when we're at the end of the day, we're tired, we go to bed and we drop off. What happens? Because we are so tired, we're no longer able to continue clinging to this body and thinking so many thoughts. So we let go of everything and we subside in sleep. So sleep results when we let go of everything. But that's why Bhagavan didn't ask us just to let go of everything. He said to hold on to ourselves. That is the important thing. Bhagavan often said, in yoga they say, chitta vritti nirodha. But yoga's chitta vritti nirodha. That is, yoga is stopping the mental activity. But Bhagavan said we stop the mental activity every night when we fall asleep. But if we merely stop mental activity, whether by yoga or by tiredness or whatever it is, we go into a state called manolaya. Sleep is a type of manolaya. Kevala Nirvikalpa Samadhi is a type of manolaya. That is a state in which we cease to be aware of anything other than ourselves. But ego is not thereby destroyed. Because if we go into a state of dissolution of mind, by any means other than self-attentiveness, that dissolution is laya. Laya means it's a temporary dissolution. We'll come back again. The mind will rise again. So how to bring about the permanent dissolution, the manonasa? The only means is to hold on to self-attentiveness. So long as we're holding on to self-attentiveness, we cannot go into sleep or manolaya. If we go into sleep or manolaya, it's because we've let hold of the self-attentiveness. So the practice is not to give up thoughts. The practice is not to lose body consciousness. The practice is to hold on to self-attentiveness. If we hold on to self-attentiveness, thoughts will cease. Body awareness will drop off, but we'll be continuing to hold on to the self-attentiveness. So long as we're holding firmly to self-attentiveness, we cannot fall asleep. If we fall asleep, it's because we've let go of the self-attentiveness.
Okay. Thank you, Michael G.
Right.
That's,
Some people say, I was doing Atma-vichara and I experienced Nirvikalpa Samadhi. There are two types of Nirvikalpa Samadhi. Sahaja Nirvikalpa Samadhi, which is manonasa. If you experience Sahaja Nirvikalpa Samadhi, then finished. You don't come back again. Any type of Nirvikalpa Samadhi from which you come back again is what is called Kevala Nirvikalpa Samadhi. Bhagavan said that's just a state of manolaya. So if we experience Kevala Nirvikalpa Samadhi while practicing self-investigation, it means that we've let go of the self-attentiveness and gone into a sleep-like state. So our aim is not to achieve Kevala Nirvikalpa Samadhi. Our aim is Sahaja Nirvikalpa Samadhi, in other words, manonasa, and that can be achieved only by self-attentiveness. So all we should be concerned about, we can forget about all samadhis, because so long as we've got thoughts of samadhis, it's something other than ourselves. All we should be concerned about is holding on to ourselves, forgetting everything else.
Okay, Michael G. Thank you. I'll try that.
Right.
Thank you. Sarah, go ahead.
Thank you. Michael, I wanted to ask you about a specific, I would say it's a challenge that I'm facing. It's something that I've noticed about myself lately. I feel like I am now effectively split into two personalities. So there is an inner world and there is an outer world. And I am focusing more, like I am less worried about the external renunciation of things, which I suppose is a good thing. But in my day-to-day life, I feel like I say things to other people that I don't believe in anymore. So it's almost like I'm saying something, those words are mine, but my beliefs inside are completely different. And I'll give you a quick example. Just yesterday, I was speaking with someone about moving to a new place here in the US with a very high crime rate. And I brought that up, even though inside me, I am perfectly content with the fact that I will die when I die, and I am not too concerned about that. And I understand that Bhagwan is in charge. It doesn't really matter to me that there's high crime in a place, but I said it anyways. Now, I'm not certain why that is. Is that normal or is that a problem? Do I need to get to a point where I'm also controlling what I am saying?
No. That is, the outward life goes on according to prarabdha. That doesn't mean everything we do is prarabdha. That is not the meaning. But whatever is to be experienced is prarabdha. Whatever we need to do in order for the prarabdha to unfold, we will be made to do. So we shouldn't be concerned about our external life. We shouldn't be concerned about our actions. All we should be concerned about is holding on to our being. The more we hold on to our being, the less we will be swayed by our Vishaya vasanas to do any agamya. So whatever happens will be, well, whatever happens is anyway prarabdha, but we'll be rising less to do this or do that. That is, actions of body and mind will go on in accordance with prarabdha. As Bhagavan said in the note to his mother, avarava prarabdha prakaram adakanavan angangirandu artavipan. That is, in accordance with the prarabdha of each one, he who is for that, meaning God or Guru, angangirandu, being there, that implies being in every place or being in the heart of each one, artavipan will make them act. So whatever actions our body, speech, or mind needs to do in accordance with prarabdha, they'll be made to do. So we need not be concerned about those actions. We cannot avoid those actions. Any other actions we do by body, speech, or mind, we're doing under the sway of our Vishaya vasanas. If we are clinging to self-attentiveness, we are thereby not allowing ourselves to be swayed by Vishaya vasanas. So if we're really clinging firmly to self-attentiveness, we won't be doing agamya. Body, speech, and mind will continue acting according to in accordance with the prarabdha. They'll be made to act by God. So why Bhagavan taught us this is to make us understand we do not need to concern ourselves with the outward life. We do not need to concern ourselves with the actions of body, speech, or mind. All we need to concern ourselves with our own being and holding on to our being. If we hold on to our being, everything else will take care of it. That is, by the mere presence of Bhagavan in our heart, everything will happen as it's meant to happen. So the only thing we should be concerned about is our own being. So whether we say things that we believe or we don't believe, what does it matter? When you're saying something that you don't really believe or that your heart isn't really in it, are you not aware I am? That's all that matters. Hold on to that I am. Let the words come out as they need to come out. It doesn't matter.
Okay.
This isn't a license to do whatever we like. Because if we're doing whatever we like, we're not attending to ourselves. But the point is that you need to hold on to our being and be unconcerned about doing. Then the doing will go on. Whatever doing happens will be in accordance with prarabdha. So we don't have to concern ourselves at all about our outward. That's why he says in the 13th paragraph of Nana, when that one Parameshwara Shakti is driving all karyas, why should we, instead of yielding ourselves to it, be constantly thinking, ipadi sevendum, apadi sevendum, it's necessary to do like this, it's necessary to do like that. Doesn't matter what we do. What matters is our being. Hold on to your being and forget about doing. So all that Bhagavan taught us about karma is to make us understand we need not concern ourselves with karma. We need the only thing we need concern ourselves with is our own being. If we hold on to our being, that will rectify all our wrong actions. That is that's the way to avoid doing any wrong action is just to hold on to our being.
Thank you, Michael. And
thank you.
We'll see you all next time.
Yes. I recently, a couple of days ago, I put a new homepage on my website. So it's a very long homepage, but it's a summary of Bhagavan's, well, it's an overview of Bhagavan's teachings. But I think if anyone's interested, they may find it useful.